Morgan, honey, I've got a workplace story for you. A woman, a grabby co-worker, and a bag of chips that met a tragic end. Go right ahead, sweetheart.
Ah, the workplace, that great theater of human patience and its inevitable limits. Go on then. There is in a modest office somewhere in this vast country a woman of 36 years who has reached the end of her considerable rope. Her colleague, a man of 58, affectionately known around the office as Goldfish George, has a peculiar habit. He takes things, not maliciously, simply reflexively, snacks, pens, files, whatever is nearest. What he did not know is that the universe keeps a ledger, and somewhere in that ledger a line item had been accumulating for quite some time under the name George. She had spoken to George about this more than once, with patience, with clarity, even with analogies involving wallets to help him understand the distinction between what is offered and what is taken. George would nod. George would agree. And then George would, in the fullness of about 48 hours, take her gum again. One must pause to consider the definition of insanity as it applies to workplace negotiations with a man called Goldfish. The breaking point arrived in the form of a pen. She was filling out a form, a mundane, necessary form, the kind that holds civilization together, and George reached across, plucked the pen from between her very fingers, and left a great swooping ink mark across the page, because he had a very important idea that could not wait 3 seconds. And here, dear listener, the story turns. She decided that George would learn by experience what he had failed to learn by conversation. She would simply snatch back. The following day, in the break room, George took a bag of communal chips from her hands. She took it back, calmly, and said, "Ask, please." George, in a response that surprised everyone, including George, grabbed the bag with such force that it split open entirely, and chips rained down upon the linoleum like confetti at a very disappointing parade. The human capacity for pettiness is, truly, boundless, though in this particular case it belongs to George, not to her. George told her she had made him feel like a child. She is now wondering if her plan was childish. George cleaned up chips. The office watched. No one said anything, as is the custom. The great river of consequence does not pause to explain itself, George. She is not the asshole. And here is why I say that with some confidence. In the grand theater of human conduct, there exists a simple covenant. What belongs to another you ask for. George was told this. George was shown this. George was given the metaphor of the wallet, which is frankly an excellent metaphor, and yet George persisted. Now, was her method precisely elegant? No, but elegance had been tried. Elegance had failed, repeatedly, at the altar of Goldfish George's short-term memory. There are situations where the only language a person comprehends is the language they themselves speak. She spoke it. One bag of chips paid the tuition. That is not childish. That is pedagogy. George, incidentally, is nearly retired. The office will survive him. The chips, however, did not.
Ha! Pedagogy, he says. Love that man. Okay, sugar, next one's a boarding school situation. A girl's got a primo dorm and somebody wants it. Let me get Chuck Norris on this call, darling.
Norris.
Chuck, honey, I've got a boarding school story.